the weight of a name. In the heart of suburban Cleveland, Ohio, on a crisp October morning, 76-year-old Evelyn Harris stood at the counter of First Union Bank, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched a worn envelope. Her thin navy coat did little to shield her from the chill seeping through the glass doors, and her polished but faded shoes creaked with every careful step. Evelyn, a retired schoolteacher, had come to deposit a small pension check, a ritual she'd performed for decades. But today, her glasses kept slipping, and the fine print on the form blurred under her gaze. Behind her, the line grew restless. A teenager huffed. A man in a suit checked his watch. The teller's smile was polite but strained. Then came the boots. Heavy, deliberate, they echoed across the marble floor. Officer Daniel Mercer, a broad-shouldered man with a jaw clenched like a vice, stormed in, his uniform pristine but his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. His gaze locked on Evelyn, small and slow, an inconvenience in his world of order. "This isn't a charity," he barked, his voice slicing through the lobby. "Move it." Evelyn turned, startled, her glasses sliding again. Before she could speak, Mercer nudged her chair with his knee, not hard, but enough to make her stumble. Papers scattered across the floor like fallen leaves. The room froze. No one moved to help. Evelyn bent down, her knees cracking, her fingers reaching for the documents. Mercer's hand clamped onto her wrist, firm and cold. "Still breathing? Then move," he said, his tone laced with disdain. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. Instead, Evelyn pulled her phone from her coat pocket, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "James, come get your mother," she said softly. Mercer smirked, thinking her powerless. He had no idea what was coming. Minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up outside. James Harris, Evelyn's son, stepped out, his tailored suit as sharp as his gaze. A federal prosecutor with a Harvard law degree, James carried an authority that didn't need to be shouted. He entered the bank, his briefcase in hand, and the air shifted. "I'm here for Evelyn Harris," he said, his voice calm but unyielding. "Her attorney and her son." Mercer scoffed, leaning back in his chair at the precinct where he'd taken Evelyn, her wrists now bound in plastic cuffs. "Attorney, huh? Public defender with a soft spot for old ladies?" James didn't flinch. He opened his briefcase, producing a writ of release and a notice of intent to sue. "Federal Bar, Civil Rights Division," he said. "You'll learn to fear my mother not because of me, but because of who she is." The confrontation was only the beginning. James didn't just want Evelyn freed. He wanted the system that allowed Mercer's cruelty to answer for it. He posted a 23-second video online, raw and unedited, showing Mercer dragging Evelyn across the bank floor, her shoulders slumped, her dignity under assault. By dusk, it had 1 million views. By morning, it was a movement. Comments flooded in. "If this is how they treat a grandmother, what happens when no one's watching?" A retired professor shared it, writing, "This took me 70 years to see." Mercer's history unraveled next. James uncovered 6 buried complaints against a teenager, a pregnant woman, a man with epilepsy, all dismissed without investigation. Then came the audio leak. Mercer's voice chillingly clear in a precinct meeting. "They only respect a badge when it breaks their will." The words weren't shouted. They were casual, like a weather report. That made them worse. The precinct scrambled. Officers took sick leave. Files vanished. A junior officer leaked an affidavit, admitting, "I stayed quiet because I was told that's professionalism." The city felt the heat, but James didn't stop. He filed a federal lawsuit, not just against Mercer but the entire department, citing systemic complicity under Section 1983. The evidence was surgical: photos, videos, a timeline of Mercer's unchecked career. A photo of Evelyn, cuffed and disheveled, became the lawsuit's centerpiece, not for pity, but for truth. The trial was a reckoning. Evelyn took the stand, her voice soft but piercing. "I've lived 76 years," she said. "I voted in lines that snaked around blocks. I've buried friends who never saw 40. But nothing prepared me for being invisible." He didn't ask my name. He smiled when he hurt me. The courtroom stood, not in applause, but in awe. Evelyn didn't want sympathy. She wanted her name back. "Say it," she demanded. "Say Evelyn Harris when you speak of justice." Then came Thomas Caldwell, a retired officer who'd trained Mercer. He walked in, cane in hand, and faced the room. "I told Kyle the badge was a burden to protect, not dominate," he said, his voice heavy with regret. But he learned a different lesson, one I didn't stop. His confession wasn't loud, but it was lethal. exposing the culture that let Mercer thrive. Mercer cracked under the weight. In a congressional hearing, he snapped, I kept the streets clean. You don't know what it's like when they spit in your face. James didn't interrupt. He let Mercer bury himself. Thank you, James said quietly. You just signed your indictment. A final blow landed. Another photo, Mercer pinning Evelyn's wrist with his boot, casual and cruel. Sin doesn't need high definition, James said. It just needs to be seen. The verdict was swift. Mercer was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, his badge revoked, and ordered to pay $12 million in damages. 6 officials resigned, and the city council vowed reform. Mercer's name became a cautionary tale, his photo removed from precinct walls, his gym membership canceled, his presence shunned at diners. A teenager at a gas station asked, Do you still think you're the good guy? Mercer drove away, silent. Evelyn didn't attend the sentencing. Her absence spoke louder than words. But in a hospital hallway, a nurse pushed her wheelchair, saying, Are you comfortable, Mrs. Harris? The name, spoken with respect, was her victory. James declined interviews, saying, My mother doesn't need me to speak. Just say her name right. In his office, he hung a framed page with one sentence. No one has the right to humiliate my mother, not because I'm a lawyer, but because she's human. The city changed. Murals of Evelyn appeared on school walls. Mrs. Harris's law was proposed, mandating transparent police reviews. Her name joined the ranks of civil rights icons, not as a victim, but as a force. Mercer faded, a ghost of his own making, while Evelyn's dignity reshaped a nation's conscience. Justice wasn't loud. It was a name, spoken clearly, and a chair left empty where power once sat. What did you think of Evelyn's story? How do you view the issues of violence and injustice in our society? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Take a stand, voice your perspective, and let's keep this conversation alive.